Steins is a series that holds a special place in my heart. It's one of my favorite pieces of fiction ever. These feelings started when I watched Nico B's Let's Play that he did of the visual novel back in 2015. Soon after, I watched the anime and immediately fell in love with it. When the prospect of me potentially making a video on this series popped into my head, it was one of my goals to make it a reality for a long time. So with me just having finished the visual novel, it's a perfect time to do so. I'm super excited, so let me not waste any more time. Let me show you all the world of Steins and the reason why this story means so much to me. Let me go over a few things before we start. As always, clap it up for the titular spoiler warning. If you haven't played the visual novel, read the manga, or watched the anime for Steins Gate, then proceed at your own discretion. Mr. Spoiler Warning is gonna tell it all. Now let's introduce our next guest, Mr. Content Warning. He's here to discuss how Steins Gate has scenes that may not be suitable for everyone. Cover your kids' eyes and ears because this is some nasty stuff, folks. Seriously though, if you proceed, then keep that in mind, please. Anyway, with those two out of the way, let's talk about the story. We're dropped into Akihabara, Japan, July 28th, 2010. We follow our main character, Okabe Rentaro, an 18-year-old college student. He's here with his childhood best friend, Shina Mayuri. They're here to see a time travel presentation by Dr. Nakabachi. Okabe is here for summer college credits, while Mayuri is here to just tag along. The presentation is scarce with people, but that's the least of their worries. A satellite appears on top of the building they're in. It causes a stir, but not as much as Okabe finding the dead body of Makise Kurisu in the hallway. Makise is a 17-year-old girl genius who published a paper on neuroscience. She's a big deal in the science community. She's also now lifeless in front of Okabe. Him and Mayuri both leave the building for their own safety. As Okabe is writing an email to his friend Daru about what happened, he presses send and the world suddenly shifts. Now the bustling streets of Akiba are completely empty. Mind you, this all happens in a span of an hour. Okabe was forced to go to this presentation by his college and left with unexplainable trauma. But no one else, not even Mayuri, who was there, can corroborate his story. So he just writes it off as a dream and moves on. From this point forward, the game is split into two halves. The first half is an introduction to the world we're in, the characters in it, and the mechanics of the story. It has the player on training wheels, enjoying the fun times of friends. And genuinely, it is really fun. While it seems mundane to just go through Okabe's life for like 2 weeks, it's hard not to warm up to the characters. People like Lukaku, Ferris, Nai, Mr. Braun, Moeka, Suzuha, and Makise Kurisu are introduced to us in this period. But Makise is dead, so how is she relevant? Never mind, she's alive. Yes, somehow. Makise's alive again, another counteracting point in his experience. I threw a lot of names at you, but don't worry, I'll do my best to explain them later on. From July 29th until August 13th, we see a lot happen, so let me break it down for you. Okabe lives in an apartment above the Braun Tube workshop. Mr. Braun runs the store while Okabe rents out the second floor. Suzuha works there as a part-timer, with Nai showing up there to see her dad occasionally. The second floor is where the future Gacha lab is located. Mayuri and Daru hang out here as well, totaling the current members up to 3. There's a bunch of inventions, quote-unquote, they made that I'll list on screen, but the most important one is the phone wave, named subject to change. A microwave with a phone strapped onto it. It turns out that Okabe and Daru created a time machine by accident. The phone wave can send emails back in time. So with the phone wave, they effectively created time travel with a microwave. I won't dare to try to explain how it works because good lord. But regardless, this piques Makise's interest, leading to her joining the lab. They experiment a bunch with D-mail, its official name, even having some of their friends test it out. But only lab members can use D-mail, so the count goes from 4 members to 8. Moeka, Ferris, Lukaku, and Suzuha all join the lab as a result. Between this, every member who sends a D-mail or has a D-mail sent about them changes the world line. I'll explain what this means later. Now we're at a point where Kurisu understands the phone wave well enough to where she upgrades it into the time leap machine. Instead of sending email through time, you can now send your memories through time. This is genuinely time travel. I'll explain it on screen now. Things couldn't be better at this point, right? Well, that's what I want to say. Hate to break your heart, but this doesn't last forever. Okabe's actions finally catch up to him. On Friday, August 13th, the Future Gadget Lab gets raided by mercenaries working for a group called CERN. They deal in time travel research and black holes. They're here because Okabe's group hacked into their database and found information on CERN's experiment. They range from creating black holes to sending people back into the past. The lab used CERN's experiments to help guide their own, of course without the inhumane experimentation part. They eventually got caught because of the trail of D-mails they left behind. The mercenaries came to kidnap Okabe, Daru, and Makise so they can work on CERN's time machine. The head of this group is Moeka, who was revealed to have worked for CERN the entire time. Moeka shoots and kills Mayuri, causing Okabe to time leap back in time to save her. Now this is where the second half of the story begins. In contrast to the first half, this half is about using what we learned for one goal, saving Mayuri. So Okabe has to find a way to do so by changing the past. After several attempts, Okabe realizes that she's destined to die. It isn't about the people involved, where it happens, or how it happens that matters. What matters is that in this world line, Mayuri will die on the 13th of August. The world itself is killing her, but with Kurisu and Suzuha's help, they figure out La Méthode. CERN was tipped off by the D-mails sent to the past, so if Okabe can cancel them, CERN will have less to go off of. Now we're working backwards. Whenever a D-mail was sent, the world line changed to correct it. World lines are potential paths the world can take. There's a world line where Mayuri lives and one where she died. An important distinction is that they aren't parallel. The world line Okabe is on is the active one, while the others exist as possibilities but not reality until Okabe's in it. Now that we have a direction, let's start with Suzuha. She's a part-timer in Mr. Brown's workshop, but the truth is, she's actually a time traveler from the year 2036. The satellite on top of Radio Kaiken is hers. It's also a time machine. She's traveled back in time to help Okabe's group because CERN uses their time travel technology to create a dystopian future. She's also Daru's daughter, with him being the man who made the time machine. Okabe's the leader of the resistance that fights against CERN until his death in 2025. So potentially Okabe could very well be dead today, who knows? But to put it simply, Suzuha's future sucks. She's lost a lot in her 18 years of life, so spending time with Okabe's group was really fun to her. But she has a mission to do, to go back to 1975 and acquire an IBM 5100 for Okabe. This machine was used to hack CERN's database, but was lost the more he changed world lines. Okabe originally sent a D-mail to have her stay for longer, but Okabe rescinds that D-mail. Next is Ferris. She's one of Mayuri's friends and co-workers at Maid Queen plus Nyan Nyan Squared, a maid cafe in Akihabara. She's actually the head of Akihabara's development council, resulting in Akiba being super anime. But Ferris's D-mail changed the city into a tech wonderland, and you're probably wondering how. Her father passed away in a plane crash. Her D-mail saved him, leaving him as the head of Akiba development. This leads to her father making it a tech-based city. Okabe rescinds the D-mail. We have Lukako's D-mail. Lukako works at his father's shrine, and just like Ferris, Lukako is also Mayuri's friend. His D-mail deals with him wanting to be a girl. He sent a message to his mom on her pager, telling her to eat veggies if she wants a baby girl while she was pregnant with Lukako. This stems from his gender identity issues and his effeminate appearance. So Lukako in this world line is a girl. She also wanted to be one because she likes Okabe a lot. This is 2010 Japan, so being openly gay is pretty rough. But Okabe is still on a mission to save Mayuri, so despite this, he rescinds the D-mail. Next, we have Moeka. She's a woman who Okabe met when searching for the IBM 5100. Moeka, of course, turned out to be a traitor and working for CERN as a rounder / mercenary, so she was looking for it to destroy it. But Moeka isn't some cool mercenary like Cloud Strife. She's a broken woman, like Cloud Strife, funny enough. She found kinship in her handler by the name of FB. FB's a mother figure for Moeka, someone who desperately needs it. What we come to find out is that FB is actually Mr. Braun. He also works for CERN. He kills her before killing himself, leaving his daughter Nai alone. No matter what, just like Mayuri, Moeka is destined to die on the 15th in this world line. Her D-mail was talking about the IBM 5100 being in Yanabayashi Shrine, Lukako's shrine, so Okabe rescinds her D-mail. The last D-mail is the hardest one. This D-mail was the first one we sent in the game. Okabe's D-mail to Daru about Makise's body. He wasn't dreaming, she did die, but when he sent the D-mail, the conditions were right to activate the phone wave on accident. He changed world lines. So if Okabe cancels the D-mail, Kurisu will die in the beta world line. If he doesn't, Mayuri will die in the alpha world line. He has to choose. This seems like an easy choice, but understand Kurisu has become a staple in the lab at this point. She's a treasured friend and the only reason that Okabe is this close to saving Mayuri at all. So when the cards are on the table, Okabe rescinds the D-mail. In the end, Okabe chose Mayuri. He goes back to his world line. They become a couple and live on, completing his goal. And that marks the end of the game. Or at least, that's the end of Mayuri's route, Stardust Sky. There are multiple endings, including a true ending in this game. Mayuri's route is the one most people get first because they want to see how the story ends before picking other options. That, or they don't even realize they could get other endings. The game shows this symbol here on a choice after you beat the game. Usually it's meant for choosing to send emails and phone calls, but for ending routes this marker is crucial. Anyway, let's talk about those endings. First is Suzuha. You can choose to not rescind the email, which leads to Suzuha's ending, Irreversible Reboot. Here we see Okabe choose to time leap and repeat the same 2 days again and again. The only reason he does this is because Suzuha ends her life when she goes back in time. The time machine malfunctioned and erased her memory when she arrived, forgetting her mission in the process. So when she does remember, she's overcome with regret. She failed and takes her own life in the process, leaving behind a letter for the group to see. So Okabe runs away. He keeps running and running, degrading his soul every time he leaps. He repeats the same 2 days to live in bliss over over and over. Suzuha starts noticing his erratic behavior. She's seen his all too familiar 1,000-yard stare on people's faces in her future, so she offers him the chance to come with her. He's too disconnected from this timeline to even remain here, so why not reboot in 1975 with her? Then he can prevent her from forgetting her mission. So they leave together, leaving behind this time period. Next is Ferris with the isolated Jamais Vu. Instead of cancelling her D-mail, he chooses her instead. This changes the world line. While Kurisu's death is in the Beta world line, Mayuri's death is in the Alpha, this one is the Omega world line. In this one, Okabe and Ferris are in a relationship. In exchange, Okabe's relationship with Mayuri and Daru has changed. They know him as Ferris's boyfriend and nothing else. Kurisu isn't even here either, but Mayuri's alive. The goal was technically achieved. He now spends the rest of his days in the Omega world line with Ferris, his lover, and Rainet, Exo's battleless partner. Next we have Lukaku's ending with Link of Corruption and Rebirth. Definitely another one of my favorites and the last of the endings you can get before the final chapter. In this one you can choose Lukaku over Mayuri, so you both individually spend a day with Mayuri at Komima before she passes. Lukaku remains a girl and the two of you start dating. They eventually have a child too. Kurisu lives by extension, but she plays a secondary role in helping Okabe process Mayuri's death. All three of these endings are just so bittersweet. I really enjoyed them because while they are romance routes, they also have interesting stories too. And that's 4 out of the 6 endings available. All that's left is Kurisu's ending and the true ending. To get Kurisu's ending, you had to hit at least 5 out of 6 of her romance flags. You gotta work for Okabe's canon relationship. The true ending requires all 6. They're scattered throughout the game and are accomplished by getting the right responses to her emails. In addition, new scenes are added to your playthrough. New scenes that give insight on Kurisu's life, personality outside of being a neuroscientist, and her family. These scenes are awesome because without them, Kurisu and Okabe are just friends. It would have led to the Mayuri ending again. Once you have 5 of the 6 flags, Chapter 10 will change from Stardust Sky to Paradox Meltdown. This signifies the change from Mayuri's ending to Kurisu's. This chapter is similar to Stardust Sky, with Okabe even making the same decision, but they are not the same. This version has Okabe and Kurisu fall madly in love with each other. The extra scenes change their relationship from friends to partners in time. So while he does choose Mayuri in the end, Okabe will forever love Makise Kurisu. Both versions of Chapter 10 produce some of the best scenes in the game. The modified rain scene, the kiss scene, Kurisu running back to the lab, and best of all, Okabe finally letting it out. The scene involves Okabe finally making it back to the Beta world line. He gives a speech about how the mission's complete, but Daru and Mayuri have no idea what he's talking about. But Mayuri notices how Okabe feels strained and sad when saying this, so she hugs him and tells him it's okay. She tells him to let it out, and so he does, crying profusely into her arms. He finally did it. He saved Mayuri, but the cost was more than he imagined. The grief mixed with relief over finally completing his mission, turning him into a sobbing mess. Genuinely an amazing scene for Okabe and Mayuri. And that marks the end of the Kurisu route. But as for a true ending, Chapter 10 holds the final romance flag. It has a tight window, but if you can get it, you'll get the true ending route. Instead of the game ending after the end of Chapter 10, the game moves on to Chapter 11, Open the Steins game. The true ending route is a continuation of the Kurisu route. Here, Okabe is back in the Beta world line. 3 days after his return, he gets a call from Suzuha, but this is not the same person. This person traveled back in time to stop World War III from happening, instead of stopping CERN. Okabe, of course, has a mental collapse. He thought it was free. He thought he was safe. He thought he sacrificed enough. There was never a guarantee that the Beta world line was safe, but this is just downright comical at this point. But Suzuha tells him that there's a chance, and it all hinges on July 28th. If he can save Makise on that day, they can potentially reach Steins Gate, a world line where Mayuri and Makise both live, a world line where Okabe can finally rest. Of course, there's no guarantee that all of this will work out in the end, but it's a chance. So Okabe takes that chance and goes with Suzuha in her time machine for one last mission. To keep it short, we find out a few things. 1. Makise's dad is Dr. Nakabachi. 2. The person that kills her is Okabe. In an attempt to stop Nakabachi from killing his daughter, Makise jumps in between them and dies to Okabe's knife that was meant for Dr. Nakabachi. 3. This was all planned from the start. Okabe was meant to fail and go through this because once him and Suzuha return, he gets a message from someone, his future self, Okabe from 2025, aka the one who failed but never got this message. This version spent the rest of his life working tirelessly to find a way to make it work, and he did. He found a way to trick the world so he could reach Steins Gate. So he sent himself a demo from 2025 explaining everything. He had to fail for this future to come true. Okabe has to make it look like Kurisu died. As for how, that's up to him. He also has to stop Dr. Nakabachi from getting Kurisu's thesis that she wanted to show her father. That letter would start World War III on the basis of time travel. So he had a plan and was ready to make it work. They travel back in time and try again. Okabe finds Nakabachi and Kurisu, stops Nakabachi from trying to kill her, tases Kurisu, gets stabbed so he can produce the blood, takes the letter, and leaves with Suzuha with maximum efficiency. Bro could potentially die because he lost a lot of blood, and a time machine was not an easy ride. So Suzuha rushes him back to the time machine, where they'll travel back to 2010. Due to the events changing significantly, the world line shifts, meaning that Suzuha and Okabe won't see each other again until 2017 when she's born. With a final farewell, we get the epilogue. Here we see what the Steins world line looks like. We have Ferris, Lukaku, Mr. Braun, Nai, and even Moeka happily alive and well. Suzuha's not born yet, but she'll be fine. But no Kurisu. At the very least, Okabe can take solace in the fact that she's alive, somewhere in the world. That is, until they meet in the middle of Akihabara by accident. She thanks him for saving her. He doesn't know what to do, so he pulls his usual Hoin Kyoma nonsense, to which she replies how she normally would, despite that having never happened. It turns out everyone has reading Steiner, the ability that lets Okabe remember other world lines. Of course, his is the strongest, but others have a weird deja vu version of it. It's like dreams or memories to them. So with that, the two reunite, thus bringing the story to a close. Honestly, I didn't realize how much time I needed to explain for any of this to make sense. That's also taking into account that I skipped a lot too. This summary is by no means exhaustive, so please play the game if you're interested or are confused by my retelling. I have something controversial to tell you all. In my personal opinion, this game is a masterpiece. Shocker, right? I made you wait 16 minutes for something you saw in the title. But I mean it. I think this story is timeless. But I want to state immediately that this game isn't flawless. So what better place to start than with the game itself? It's a visual novel, so gameplay isn't a hot commodity here. You use your phone to reply to emails, progress the story, and to access each ending. The most gameplay I got was through 100%ing the game, but that's optional and nothing different from what you do in the game normally. Point is, I'd be lying if I tried to oversell this game's gameplay to you all, which granted, why would I? It's a visual novel. You're reading a story at the end of the day, so gameplay isn't really a concern. It gets the job done, and it's a nice way to have more character interaction, but what's important here is the game's presentation and its story. For the presentation, it's simple, especially compared to what Steins Gate Zero will do, but it's nothing to scoff at either. This game has its own flavor and personality to it, with it taking more of a math and science approach to its visuals. The gears in the background, the circles made with math compasses, the paper background for the configuration screen, the graphing paper, it all conveys the game's themes of time travel in the fields it employs. The presentation even translates to the game's art style. The sprites are somehow complementary to the game's cold and scientific style. I hope you see what I mean when I say that, because I promise it's not just random nonsense. Just look at the gameplay I've been using so far. The characters in the presentation aren't dissonant at all. Connecting to my last point, the visuals are awesome. I can see how someone may not like the characters' base designs. I definitely will admit that they aren't perfect. I prefer everybody's look at the anime and CGs compared to their in-game sprites, but the sprites have their own charm as well. The colors, this little graph paper squares and the shading, the light dots on the characters, and the eyes. Oh my goodness, the eyes. I think they're my favorite part. Every single character in this game has different eye color and shape. Sounds standard for character design, right? Take a closer look at it. Every single one of them has a unique eye design. If characters are related as well, they have similar eyes. It's a detail that most people gloss over, but it's one of my favorite mundane tidbits about this game, man. Alright, let me lock in. The CGs are even better. A few are obscene, to say the least, but take a look at some of these. They border from good to utterly breathtaking. Some of them don't have the same art style, but they're not too dissimilar to where it's jarring. Moving on from the visuals, however, the music is iconic. Skyclad Observer is the intro theme, and it's so good. The BGM tracks are solid as well. I recommend listening to this game's soundtrack if you haven't, or if you're interested. The voice acting is phenomenal. It's only in Japanese, so no dub voices unfortunately, but that doesn't matter when the cast is stacked, like Kana Hanazawa being my earring. Daru's voice can definitely be weird at first and grating at times, but once you get used to it, especially in serious scenes, it's good. Japanese voice actor Tomokazu Seki voices people like Pucci from JoJo's, Gilgamesh in Fate's Strange Fake, and Lucci from One Piece. This man knows how to voice act, so it isn't a talent issue, but some people genuinely just don't like Daru's voice, which is perfectly fine. You can always turn it off in the settings if it does bother you. Okabe's voice actor, Mamoru Miyano, voices people like Benimaru from Fire Force, Ryuji from Persona 5, and Riku from Kingdom Hearts. His voice acting in this game is otherworldly. Whether it's Hyoin Kyoma, normal Okabe, or emotional Okabe, he hits it out of the park every time. When he screams, it's so guttural, but the crying is even better. Alright, let's move on to the story. This is without a doubt a slower paced story. I know I say that a lot, but it's true. It takes its time setting up the characters, the world, and the story points that matter in the long run. So with that in mind, this story isn't for everyone. If you're bored after the first chapter, then I recommend watching the anime for a more concise depiction of the story. If that doesn't work either, then unfortunately the story might not be for you. But if you can stick it out, you're in for a real treat. The story does an amazing job building the world while introducing intrigue and mystery in the first half, like the Jellyman's reports, understanding the phone wave, the cryptic messages from CERN, and how Makise is still alive. The magic of this game is the mystery on your first playthrough. Then, after you beat it, the magic is replaying it and seeing hints and signs as to what's happening or is going to happen in the story. It rewards new and returning players. The game can get bogged down with scientific terminology, so I can see people tuning it out, but luckily the tips can explain whatever you don't know. The game makes an effort to convey its complex theories and concepts, so don't worry about not understanding a lot of it. The endings I mentioned earlier are pretty good too. Not one of them is terrible in my eyes. All 6 are at least serviceable and above. Here's my rating for every ending in the game on screen now. I'd be lying though if I said I always felt like this. Kurisu's ending always negatively stuck out to me. Its existence felt redundant to me because it's only a portion of the true ending, like a free trial of the story's conclusion. The extra ending spot could have been used for a different ending. I would always offer Moeka, but there's no way for her to have an ending in this game. She's hurt Okabe too much to be a romance option, even if she was redeemed to an extent. I always held this opinion on the ending until I started writing the script. I realized that this ending is a neutral ending. Originally I thought Mayuri's ending served that purpose, but Kurisu's ending fits that bill better. It's just short of the true ending by design, meaning there's still work left to do. The game is pushing you to find the last flag to see what was left unresolved. I still wish there was a Moeka ending, but this realization definitely changed my stance. With that said and done, it's time to finally talk about the characters, which, to no one's surprise, I believe are the best part of this game. This game's cast is pretty strong, the weakest character in this game definitely being Daru though, which in hindsight is pretty weird because he's one of the most important characters in this game. He helped hack into CERN, hack out of CERN, helped build the phone wave, and the time loop machine. He contributes a significant amount to the lab, but he doesn't contribute much as a character. He doesn't grow as a character throughout the story. Granted, he's a staple in the lab, but he doesn't change from the perverted otaku nerd that he starts as. He's a character that I feel has potential that was mishandled in this game. Luckily, Steins Gate Zero rectified this, but I'll talk about that later. Besides him though, everyone else is great. The cast is small but impactful, resulting in everyone getting their shine. It's not even mentioning their personalities. Every character is unique in this game. Makes every interaction different, especially when the lab gets bigger. The characters are just as important to the story as the story itself. Okabe's choices wouldn't have been as impactful if he didn't care for the people involved. People like Lukako, Ferris, Moeka, and Suzuha make getting to Steins Gate a tough but fulfilling journey. Which brings me to my next point. Makise, Mayuri, and Okabe are the best characters in this game. All 3 of them are written magnificently. Let's start with Mayuri. She's a character that doesn't do much in this game, but is very integral to the story. Of course, that's due to her death being the reason why Okabe starts leaping. She's an airhead, but she has a heart of gold. She loves Okabe and also knows when he's not okay. This makes her different from Daru because she supplements the emotional support for Okabe. Whenever it becomes too much, she's always there for him. She lost her grandma when she was young and it broke her heart, but Okabe was there to help rebuild it. Okabe's had her undying loyalty since then, so seeing him this distraught and in pain hurts her as well. She doesn't want to lose him. That's why the scene when he starts crying in her arms hits so hard. Mayuri's perceptive and knows how to emotionally support someone, especially Okabe. She's necessary for the future gadget lab. She's the glue that holds them all together. On the opposite side, we have Kurisu. She's a genius, so her inclusion is more practical. She helped make advancements in the lab that Okabe and Daru couldn't do by themselves. When Okabe starts time leaping for Mayuri, he turns to Kurisu for help. She's cool, level-headed, and smart, but she's also human. She can't do what Mayuri does, but she helps Okabe in her own way by alleviating his plight. No one can truly grasp what he's doing, but she's definitely the closest. Okabe himself helped Makise slowly heal from her father's trauma. Of course, he did this in his own way, but Okabe showed to her that he genuinely cares about her well-being, affection that Makise cherishes deeply. These two are the closest people to Okabe, which brings me to his character. He is, without a doubt, the best character in this game. He's not perfect. He has his deplorable moments that make you cringe, but he's an amazing character. At the start, he's an 18-year-old college student that messes around with his 2 friends in his apartment. He's a dork who roleplays as a mad scientist. He's dense, not having the best emotional intelligence. He's arrogant, selfish. The list goes on and on. You can mention so many flaws he has, but that doesn't matter. His positives outweigh them. Okabe is kind. He cares for his lab members, every single one of them. Even Moeka, despite what she's done to Mayuri, he still considers her a lab member by the end of the game. He's persistent. He'll suffer again and again to make sure that Mayuri and Kurisu live. In his best moments, he's human. We see a scared young adult trying his best when no one else knows about it. No one else except us. Having to choose between Mayuri and Kurisu's gut-wrenching. These two mean so much to not only Okabe but the player too. It hurts, and it would make the story a lot sadder if those were the only two paths he could take. But Okabe, being the dog that he is, worked tirelessly to find a way. It fits his character. He rebelled against the world and found a way. So when he finally gets to Steins Gate, it's cathartic. He can finally rest with no regrets. He changed his fate and overcame the universe. He won, when even he didn't believe he could. He did it off of the back of his and other people's sacrifices. No matter what you think about him, he has the personality that attracts others to him. The type that people root for, despite his shortcomings. By the end of the game, Okabe is Steins Gate. Without him, this story wouldn't have been possible, for better or for worse. Usually this is where I would do my outro and end the video, but I can't, not yet, not when there's still bars left to spit. I talked about the visual novel, but now it's time to talk about the 2011 anime adaptation of Steins Gate. So, the anime follows the visual novel pretty faithfully. It of course depicts the game's true ending, which unfortunately means that we don't see the side endings. On the bright side though, more incentive to check out the visual novel if you haven't already. There are scenes that have minor differences but not significant enough to change the scene entirely, but there are also ones that are flat out gone from the game. The Steins Gate fandom wiki has some of the differences listed, so I'll recommend checking that out there. But some of the major ones are: 1. The anime cuts out half of Okabe's struggle to cancel Ferris's D-mail. We don't see the tournament or the time leaping before the chase happens. 2. Okabe and Lukako actually went on 3 dates instead of 1. The time leaping was also cut out. And 3. In the game, Mr. Braun actually offed himself in his house. This scars Nai, which leads to her time leaping from the future and killing Moeka. She reveals she's the one who kills Okabe in 2025 as well. While in the show, they go somewhere else to avoid scarring Nai. A lot is cut out for pacing reasons, which makes sense because the game has a lot of time looping, so condensing that into 24 episodes can be challenging. But White Fox managed to get it done. There are also scenes that take place in different locations, along with new locations being added outright. There's the restaurant Okabe and Daru go to, the park Okabe and Kurisu go to, and a laundromat. Minor but cool little details. As an adaptation, this is one of the best I've ever seen. It does an amazing job at telling the original story while utilizing the medium it's in. With this being an anime, it's far more accessible than the visual novel as well. I say this with love because visual novels are a hard medium to access for people if they don't like reading. You're playing a game that's 95% text, with the other 5 being menus. So an anime can bridge that with having subtitles being the only reading that you do while still telling the story. But the anime isn't the better alternative to the game, it's just a gateway to it. It leads a new fan to the extra content that the game has to offer because the anime can't cover everything in it. They work in tandem to tell the Steins Gate story as a whole. That's pretty much everything I had to say about the story. I don't need to mention any thoughts on it because they're the same story as the game. If I did, I'd just keep glazing it. So let's move on to the animation. Admittedly, the animation holds up pretty well. It's pretty consistent, so you know what you're getting every episode, but occasionally there'll be scenes that foreshadow what White Fox would do with ReZero in the future. Okabe running to the lab and his fight with Moeka being the best examples. Unfortunately, the eyes I mentioned earlier are gone, something that'll be hard to translate into the show every episode. Overall, the animation style fits like a glove for the story. While it's different from the game, it still captures the game's visual themes I mentioned earlier in the video. White Fox wholeheartedly cooked. Moving on, I'm not the biggest fan of the sound design here. It sounds weird to me in a way that I can't quite accurately explain. I don't know if it's just me, but it doesn't sound right at times. Pivoting from the sound design, I want to talk about the dubs. I mentioned that I watched the visual novel like 5 times, but that goes for the anime as well. However, I only watched it in dub. I love the dub so much. It holds a special place in my heart. It's what I grew up with. Unfortunately, I used Funimation to watch it when I was younger, which, if you know, got assimilated into Crunchyroll, and they only have the sub. I say all that to say, I don't know what I was expecting. It's the same voice actors from the game, so of course it's still good. They put up performances on par with the game with ease. The sub is definitely the better experience, but the dub will always be my preferred way to watch because of what it means to me. The show also has an original soundtrack it uses, but it pulls from the game's soundtrack as well. I personally prefer the game soundtrack, but the anime has some good exclusives that I recommend checking out. Anyway, let's talk about the characters. You'd think that they would remain the same, but just like the story, things have been tweaked in a positive way. Throughout this video, I use clips from the anime like I normally would for something like this. If you made it this far in the video, you probably noticed each character's personality through their movements in each scene. Okabe is rigid, quick, and jittery to match his mad scientist persona, / his chuny personality. Makise of course moves like a scientist but gets flustered and uncoordinated when she's embarrassed. Mayuri's super loose with her movements and ditzy, fitting for her carefree personality. Suzuha on the other hand is nimble and athletic, fitting for her background. I could mention more, but it would belabor the point. Every character in the anime moves in a way that displays and enhances their personality. This is something the novel obviously couldn't do with the PNGs. The PNGs had emotion and could display what the characters felt, but only through a static image and words. The anime adds another dimension to them, emotion through movement. By adding this, it enhances the emotion in certain scenes, like Kurisu's call with her father. All the subtle movements she does before she cries are so sincere, but the crying itself is so small, showing how she feels when she talks to her father. All this is capped off by Kurisu's earnest appreciation for Okabe's concern, even if it's unconventional. It's a small but important detail that adds life to these characters and their interactions. Before I move on, I noticed something funny throughout all of this. The game and the anime call Okabe by his nickname, Ocarine, but only his close friends like Mayuri and Daru do that. So the tips log and the episode descriptions know him on a personal level, which kinda makes sense. They're there for the entire journey. Anyway, to put a bow on this section, I love the anime just as much as the game. I can't compare the two because, as I mentioned, the two enhance each other. The visual novel gives extra scenes and endings that deepen our understanding of the characters in the story. The anime accomplishes the same thing through a different means. I highly recommend playing and watching both to experience the story fully. Every time I play or watch either, I do the other directly after. It's the package deal. As for the anime itself, it's awesome, man. If you only watch the anime, then I don't blame you. It's an amazing way to experience the story. A phenomenal job by White Fox and an excellent anime adaptation, something not a lot of properties can boast. This series means a lot to me, and I hope I could convey at least a smidge of what I feel when I talk about it. I turn into a real dork when I do, so I hope you could bear with it. But we aren't done. I still have to talk about Steins Gate 0 and its anime, but that'll be its own video at a later date. For now, I'm gonna end it here. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know how y'all feel about this game, the anime, this video, the series, whatever your heart wants to talk about. If there's anything I'm missing, got wrong, or forgot to credit, please let me know in the comments below. This video took a lot of effort to make, so I would appreciate it if you liked it and subscribed. But if not, then you making it to the end is also really appreciated. I sincerely thank you for it. Anyway, until next time, hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Thank y'all for watching. Hope y'all enjoyed. Peace.
Year I made it was year 3. Just a fact. You want to know another one? You averaged 7 points and 2 is. I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like I'm really not even here to talk about my numbers, but here they are.